Welcome to today's training by Fuel Access Network, Understanding Trucking and the Drivers. It's another way of saying, understanding the industry we work in and our clients. I think it's very important that as representatives of Fuel Access Network that we have a clear understanding of our customers, and that is the owner-operator and small fleet operators. And it's not only what they deal with on a daily basis, it's their lifestyle and the money flow. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to cover that in some fairly detailed examples to give you a nice, well-rounded understanding of owner-operator drivers in small fleets and from the position that they come from in this industry. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Understanding the trucker's life, or why become a trucker. So I'm going to take this from a very first-hand experience. Early in my career, I was an over-the-road operator. I was an owner-operator. I had one truck early in my career when I was raising my family. And I would drive all across the country because I found the lure of being an owner-operator gave me the opportunities that I was looking for. So as we go through this presentation, I'm taking this from a real-world position of things that I experienced over 10 years of being an owner-operator. I have hundreds of thousands of miles driven under my belt all across the United States. So as I go through these, some of these are real-world examples of things I went through, and others are experiences that friends of mine and co-drivers of mine went through, which helped shape my experiences of why Fuel Access Network became what it is today. So why become a truck driver? Why is that a lure right now? On the good side, it can be independence. You can set your own hours, be your own boss. You can be an example to your family if you're trying to show how you can, run a company and lead the charge. Other times it's not always a positive, but it's still a positive when you think about it, which is maybe you didn't get a full education. So some of your opportunities are limited. Maybe in a field you wanted to be in, you can't be in. It doesn't mean you can't make good money in this country. So education sometimes is a limitation, or you didn't attend college. Downsize from your career, my goodness. In 2024, we've heard a lot of that. Careers get downsized, jobs get outsourced, things get moved or consolidated. And something that many of us did for many, many years, we're left either going back to school or trying to figure out how do we keep that same lifestyle, that same income, and truck driving can be that. Changing work environments is a big one. And unfortunately, corporations that do go out of business, unfortunately, it does happen. And it leaves us a little bit lost because we're trying to figure out from a career we've done 20, 25, 30 years even. And now we're left trying to bridge the gap between today and maybe retirement. And driving is an opportunity to do that because as we go through this, you're going to find that truck driving is a fairly good paying opportunity. It is a way to make very good income if done correctly. And if you can navigate the landscape, the pitfalls, and the minefields that are littered all around it. And some of that we're going to cover today in this presentation. But these are just a few of what we could go on and on are reasons why people want to become truck drivers or independent owner operators, or even take the next step and become a fleet owner or a fleet and terminal owner, which is all part of the trucking industry. So we're going to jump into now, we're going to talk a little bit about the life in a 6 by 8 foot space. What I mean by that is what you're looking at on the screen is a typical truck. 80 to 90% of all the trucks on the road are going to be similar to this in some capacity. They're not real big. There's not a lot of space. Obviously, in the top right, you can see, where the steering wheel is, the driver's seat is cockpit for driving. There is a passenger seat if you're riding with somebody. And then off to the right, you're going to see 2 slides, which is a very typical style back. So you see the driver's seat, and behind that, you see a single mattress bed. And sometimes they're bunk bed styles. And then you'll see a microwave, some form of a flat top or a desk, along with some drawers, places to keep things, little cubbies and compartments, and even a little window in some of them. This is a typical truck. Now, take it from my experience, these pictures are very reminiscent of what I lived in for 10 years. This was all we had. So for anywhere from 8 to 14 hours a day, you're in the cockpit. And by the time the driving day is done, you're crawling in the back with a pillow, a blanket. You just want a little bit of sleep. Okay. You might have some snacks and munchies. In this case, in these pictures, I had a microwave in mind. So a lot of times I could, microwave a meal or something like that to try to get a little better dinner. As you guys know, there's truck stops all across the United States. So a lot of drivers will pull in and they'll go inside. They'll want to sit down at a restaurant and have a meal where they can get out of the truck, get away from this space and go have a good meal. But also think about our downtime. This is where we rest, wake up, relax, talk to our families, wind down, get ready for the day. It all happens in this. Sure, you can get outside if it's not raining. Sure, you can take a walk if you're an exerciser, which, unfortunately, exercising is not a huge thing in the trucking industry. You can't bring bicycles and tons of stuff. Typically, it's a computer, it's work stuff, it's your contact with your family, through a phone, and it's the driver's seat to move the load. This is a very work-centric environment. It's very compact, has everything we need, with the exception of a bathroom. That is one of the difficult parts of this lifestyle, is finding bathrooms are typically in truck stops, and we all pray they're clean. I hate to talk about that, but it's a reality of the lifestyle that our customers live. We want to make sure that we understand how they live. They don't live in 4,000 square foot homes with, side-by-side refrigerators and all the benefits and backyards and barbecues. That may be at home, but when they go to work, they don't go to work for just 8 hours and then they go home. Typically, our regular customer, he's out 5-6 days a week, or he's out 2 weeks, or he's out 3 weeks, and then they get home time. And home time is either a day a week or maybe 2 weeks out and 3 days home. And in some cases, when they're over the road, they're going for 3 weeks. Then they come home, they take 4 days off. That's their cumulative time off. Then they're right back out on the road again, making money for the family. It's important that you understand these pieces and think through them, because as you're talking to them, this is a lifestyle that not everybody can do. I achieved this for 10 years. I'm extremely proud of what I did. I'm very proud that I was able to do it. I was proud when the day was done and I was no longer a driver also. I was able to transition out of a truck and further my career. But many times this is their career for not just 1, 2, 3 years. It's 25, 35 years behind the wheel before they retire. And we want to make sure that we're empathetic and understanding, and we're clear and concise as we're communicating, because understanding their positions is vital to making sure we can successfully help them. Let's talk a little bit about the average workday for a driver. I'm going to use myself as an example in this. So as an owner-operator, I own my own company. I have my own DOT number. I have my own truck and trailer. So I have to deal with DOT regulations, which are complex and difficult in many respects. And it only gets worse with more and more regulation every year. We have computer tracking of the truck and the fuel per state. So as a truck driver, I'm responsible for identifying every single state that I travel in, and everywhere that I purchase fuel, I have to pay tax on those fuels. There are reports that have to be turned in every month and every quarter. These are federal DOT guidelines. I have to follow all of them, along with all the applicable laws that the driver must follow in their daily work. I can only drive so many hours. I am required to take certain breaks. Everything must be recorded electronically. All of these electronic logs must be filed and kept. The DOT requires owner-operators and drivers and fleet owners to have a records-keeping policy. We're part of a drug consortium. We are required to have physical tests to ensure we are safe on the road. And on top of all of that, there are DOT checkpoints that can randomly check us at any state, at any point, 24 hours a day, to ensure we are meeting all of these regulations safely and correctly to ensure we're allowed to be on the road. Okay? The average driver, and when I was driving, I would drive 11 hours a day. That was the maximum amount of hours that I could drive. Well, driving 8 hours a day would be a lot easier. The problem is driving 8 hours a day did not maximize the profit that I was allowed to have. It dug into my profits. If I didn't use my hours up correctly, depending on how far I had to drive, it could reduce the amount of profit I would make in that given load. So we as drivers always want to drive our maximum hours. So it's 11 hours behind the wheel. We're required a 30-minute break in there. That's DOT regulation. Then, prior to working and after working, we have additional regulations that we have to do safety checks and walkarounds. And it's all documented and recorded electronically to show the DOT that we are checking our equipment, our trucks. That encompasses an hour right there. If I'm loading or unloading freight, that again is counted as my what they call service hours for that given day. All of that totals up to a maximum 14-hour day. I can't work over 14 hours, and I can't work more than 11 hours. So I have to balance my driving hours, my breaks, my loading, my unloading, all of my inspections to make sure I maximize those hours every single day so I don't get caught where I end up missing driving hours or I miss a loading hour, because all of that affects profitability. You do this every day, rinse and repeat every single day. It's a management of your time. This is just the drive day, not including the normal duties of running their company, paying taxes, staying legal with the DOT, and an entity's state that they're in have additional requirements for income reporting and business owner reporting monthly and or quarterly. All of that falls on the family or the owner-operator in what we're talking about. To go one step deeper, the driver also needs to find loads. And that's a whole nother gamut, is that somewhere he's got to find somebody that will give him freight. Let him pick something up and take it somewhere, because that's how we get paid. We don't get paid just to drive with an empty box on the back of our truck. Okay, that's dead miles. It's got to have something inside that's paying us to move from A to B. Every mile that we drive without any freight in there is a complete loss to that owner-operator. It's fuel, time, it's a complete loss. So we always want to make sure we minimize the amount of miles without freight, and we maximize getting freight. Getting freight it's almost a presentation in its own, but I'm going to simplify this just to give you a good example of freight for an owner-operator. Freight in this country is typically moved by a couple of entities. The first entity could be an owner-operator, somebody like myself. I own a truck, I have a trailer, I can certainly do it. If I have a relationship with, let's just say, a window manufacturer in South Carolina, well, if he picks up the phone and says, hey, I've got a load of windows that has to go down to Florida today, could you pick it up? Well, he called me directly. There's no broker in there. I can say, well, I would like to get, $2.50 a mile to do that. He could agree to that, and I could say, great, I'll come pick it up right now. That would mean I am in South Carolina. I didn't have any freight today, and I had the opportunity to go get it right now. And I had to have that one-on-one relationship with that company where I could go and pick it up. That would be a perfect scenario. Now I can pick that up, take it to Florida. But when I get to Florida, I have to have freight in Florida either taking me back to South Carolina or somewhere else. And I either have to have relationships with for that, or I now have to turn to a broker. And a broker is a team of people in offices all across the country. What brokers do is they work with companies, manufacturers, businesses, and they basically say, if you've got something to move, we will help you get it moved. That broker has a network of truck drivers like me, somebody like me, that they might know where I am in Florida and say, hey, Are you in Florida, in Miami? I might have two different loads for you going from Florida to Houston, Texas. And I might say, well, great, I could do that. I'm going to drop off tomorrow morning. I've got windows. I can come over and pick up that freight from you, and I'll go right over to Houston and deliver that in a day or so. That's a broker. Well, brokers don't give us that freight for free. That's what we call an intermediary or a middleman, because they're going to take some of the freight money from us. Those brokers get paid handsomely to do what they do. They're also very good at what they do, and they understand this industry almost better than we do. Now that you understand that there's owner-operators that can get freight direct and there's brokers, let's talk about the money flow. Don't forget about what we just talked about. We're going to come back to that again, okay? The money flow works like this for an owner-operator, somebody like me. When I was driving, I had my personal expenses in my daily life on the road every day. I need toothbrush, grab a shower. That's not free, and there's no shower in the truck. So we've got to have a way to grab a shower. We've got to eat. I got to have some meals every day. Hopefully try to eat a little bit healthy and not just fast food every day. That was always my goal. Try to find something that isn't just burgers and fries. I've got a truck. I've got a trailer. I've got 18 tires and a ton of maintenance. So I've got repairs. I've got maintenance. I've got upkeep of the truck and the trailer. And all of these things have a cost attributed to them. I then have fuel bills along the way. There are sometimes loading and unloading fees. Sometimes we have to pay union or Teamsters to load and or unload the freight. It's just a cost of doing business within trucking. Some states there are tolls. Tolls can be anywhere from, $3 or $5 to, depending on where you are in the country, can be $1, $2, and even $300 for a given 10 miles. So tolls are another one. We need to be cognizant of all of these expenses on the road, because as an owner-operator, I've got to pay all those bills. And in all of these instances that we're talking about, these are not financed items. These are cash on the barrelhead. Got to have the money in order to have this. Can't go drive a truck for 3 days and not be able to eat. Can't go drive a truck and not be able to fix a tire or a repair. There's just so many little things. We've got to make sure we have enough cash flow to do that. So the money flow, as we walk through this, is going to be a vital piece of how Fuel Access Network comes in and rescues the driver and puts them in a better position. So as we keep going, you're going to see how we do that. All right, now that we have some understanding of the driver's personal expenses, now let's talk about the expenses of moving freight. So we're going to follow the money. I'm going to use an instance that I'm personally very familiar with. This was a load that I did more than once. So on a Monday, I would load up in Wisconsin. Didn't matter what I was hauling, but I was hauling to Ventura, California. My fuel cost in today's dollars, it's about $1,300 in today's dollars to make that same trip. In today's dollars, my pay rate for doing that trip to go from Wisconsin to California and deliver the freight would be about $5,000. On Wednesday, I would deliver that freight in California, and now I'm looking for a load to go from California. I want to go back to Wisconsin. The reason is A, that's where I live. It's my wife is. That's where my children are. And I'm not looking to be on permanent vacation from my family. I am looking to make sure that I go home and spend time with them. And going all the way out to California and then all the way back with a load will let me drive my maximum amount of hours with only one delivery midweek, and then drive as many hours as I can drive with only one delivery at the end of the week. That's why I like that lane, because I didn't have to keep stopping and loading and unloading and dropping and hooking and all the things. It was pick up and deliver, long driving. That's where I made some of the best money. On Friday, I was back home to deliver in Wisconsin. And again, I did have another paycheck waiting for me of another $5,000. So for that week, it was a $10,000 week for me in this example, okay? So how did the week go, though? Well, you have to think about it. We already know from the previous slide, I've got, my living expenses, I've got to eat, I've got maintenance, I've got all the expenses because I'm a human being and I'm in the truck. Okay, there's still a person driving this thing. Well, there's a whole nother set of expenses that are about to hit me. So the first one is going to be fuel. Fuel's a killer. Fuel's a killer because you got to pay for it right away. They don't take credit at the truck stops. You walk in, you either got to pay for it in cash, you got to have a credit card, or you got to have some type of a fuel card or line of credit to be able to pay for that. Okay? So here's how it works. You already know I did $1,300 in fuel. So that's $2,600 in fuel this week. My expenses were about $1,000 if you factor my eating, a little repair here and there. No major breakdowns. My goodness. If I blew a tire, you're $1,500 if you blow a tire. You have a problem with the truck, it's about $225 an hour for mechanics time. Factor that by the parts, the labor. It gets very expensive very fast. Okay? Here's the other problem. I don't get paid for 30 to 45 days because brokers have standard terms that they'll pay me, A, when I deliver, B, when I send them an invoice, and C, in 30 to 45 days. Well, do the math on that. Take 2,600 plus all the other expenses, take that times 4 weeks. And in 4 weeks, I only get one paycheck. I only get $5,000. I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars a month. The cash flow that I need in my hands to start a trucking operation, it's not $1,000 or two or three. It literally is tens of thousands of dollars in cash, liquid, so that I can not only levy the minefield of the repairs, pay the fuel bills, wait the 30 to 45 days for all the billing money to come through and for it to hit my bank account. The reality is this. In trucking, owner-operators, small fleets, they don't have this. They don't have bank accounts with that much cash in them. They just don't. It's a wonderful business. It's an amazing opportunity for so many people. But what this allows for is allows for the trucking industry now to take advantage of the owner-operator. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The owner-operator leaves themselves exposed in a few different areas where they can be, I'm not saying they will, but they can be taken advantage. In this slide, I'm going to use personal experiences. In no way am I disparaging any company, any broker, any trucking association in any way, shape, or form. But these instances still were effective back when I was driving and still today are tactics that are used all the time. Let me kind of walk through this slowly. If an owner-operator gets a truck, gets a trailer, pretty easy for them to do. They get their CDL, they get their DOT number, they're ready to drive. They don't have wads of cash. They're not sitting on $50,000, $100,000 in the bank. They just wanted to be an independent person. They wanted to own their own company. They wanted to go out and pull their own strings, drive their own truck, whatever their dream was. That's what they wanted to do. Well, now all they need to do is get freight and start making money. And I'm going to start with the brokers. See, brokers understand that most truckers don't have a lot of money. And most brokers understand that there's a leverage point there. So here's what they do. So in the instance of Wisconsin to California, we'll use that again. If I was looking to go to work on Monday and it's maybe Saturday night, I'm looking for freight. I'm on the load boards and I'm looking for freight. And I find one by ABC Brokerage Company. They've got a great one going right to Ventura. It's just what I want. I call them up and tell them I'm ready to go on Monday morning. They say, great, we'll pay you $2.25 a mile. I said, well, I really want $2.50 a mile. And they said, well, that's all the loads paying. We got to get 25 cents a mile. I can't pay you any more than $2.25. I'm like, okay, well, I need an advance because I got to pay for fuel. And I need to make sure that I can afford to do the load and then have a little money for food because I don't have a lot of money. And they say, oh, no problem. How about if I pay you $1,000 up front for fuel, and then I'll pay you another $500 just so you have some driver's expense. So you're going to get $5,000 in total payment, and then you're going to get $1,000 up front for fuel and $500 for you. And of course, I can spend that money any way I need. I know I need $1,300 for fuel. I'm only leaving myself $200 for me. I'll limit what I eat. I'll eat Subway sandwiches and, jugs of water. I can do it. I'm going to make it work. And what's happened just now is the broker knew exactly what I needed for fuel. They know, but they're not giving me $1,300. They're giving me $1,000. Then they're saying, I'll give you $500 for your personal expenses, which is about what I would like. But I have to use half or more than half of that to go ahead and pay for fuel. I'm already in an uncomfortable position, so I've already told myself I need more money, and they know that. So then I say to them, well, is there any way that you could pay me my load rate of $5,000 when I get there? So when I deliver, could you just pay me? And they'll say, no problem. We have what's called express pay. And rather than paying me $5,000, they're going to pay me 85% of that. They're going to keep 15%. So they just took my load rate from 225 and drove it all the way down and said, well, you're not going to make 5,000. You're only going to make 85% of that, but I'll still give you the $1,000 and the $500. And then once you deliver the load, send me the proof of delivery, or what we call the bills of lading or proof of delivery, that you delivered the freight. And the very next day, within 24 or 48 hours, every company's a little bit different, we'll wire transfer the remaining money into your bank account, and we'll do it for the low, low price of 15% cost. And now I'm operating a business at a loss, because when you really run through the money that I just explained, and I know we're on a slide here, but you can take notes. Not only did I pay for fuel, paid for the truck, I got there, I lessened my actual paycheck on a fair market value by 15%, which was pure profit that I gave up because I don't have cash reserves, but they do. They can wait because they have cash reserves. They took the step in business as a broker to know that I don't have cash reserves. They already know I don't. So they're leveraging that against me. Okay, here's the other one. In this same scenario, think about this. Where am I getting fuel from? Well, I'm going to now have money so I can go get fuel. Now, maybe I have a credit card with a $5,000 balance. I can swipe that at the truck stop. And then, I only need $1,300 of that. I can certainly pay that off in a few days. No big deal. I have the cash to do it. It's in my bank account. So I could use a credit card certainly to, maybe get some cashback bonuses. I might be getting some sky miles from an airline, but I'll use a credit card. Well, that's great. But remember, I'm still paying retail rate for fuel. Here's the other one that the brokers love to do. They'll say, hey, if you would like, we can get you on our fuel program. We'll get you one of our fuel cards, and we can get you some fuel discounts. You can buy fuel cheaper. And that's very attractive to me. I'm looking for discounts anywhere I can save. I just lost 15% of my actual load rate. So maybe I can pay a little bit less on my $1,300. Maybe I can pay $1,200 or even, $1,100 in fuel. Who knows? And he says, we'll get you one of our fuel cards. So he gets me a fuel card, and maybe I'll work with this broker numerous times, and they go ahead and put money on my fuel card. So that $1,000 now didn't go to me personally, went right to the fuel card. So now I'm not stressed over a credit card. I'm not stressed over, where am I going to pay for this? Because the fuel money, that $1,000, is now sitting on a credit card that broker sent to me, a couple days prior. Obviously, we have to plan for that stuff. And he just put it on my credit card, my fuel card, so I'm good. Now I'm ready to go. I get to the first truck stop that he says, and, it's a major chain truck stop, and he says, if you go there, you get 20 cents per gallon discount on us. 20 cents? Well, I hold 300 gallons of fuel. That's how much fuel my truck holds. My average fill up is about 200 to 225 gallons. That's pretty normal for me. Huh, do the math. At 20 cents a gallon, I'm suddenly getting pretty excited about this fuel card because, I'm going to save some money. It's going to give me the opportunity to recoup a little bit of cash that I was able to, recapture on that fuel card from him. So 225 gallons at 20 cents is about a $45 savings. Well, that's pretty good. I'm going to do that a few times. That might be a couple $100 savings right there. It all sounds good on the surface, but as you already know, because you've learned about our company, Fuel Access Network, 20-cent discount's really not that exciting. It's also not that big of a number. Here's what truly happened with the broker. See, the broker knew that I was at a disadvantaged position. So he took advantage of that by saying, I'll give you a fuel card. I'll put the money on your fuel card and I'll give you a 20-cent discount. But what he actually did, he had a 40, maybe a 50-cent discount, but he kept the other part. So not only did he take 15% of my total load rate, he actually kept a larger portion of the fuel savings as an additional income to himself, while passing to me a little piece of candy, a little bit of a savings, but he kept a large portion for himself. This is how brokers in the freight industry disadvantage or take advantage of owner-operators that are truly just trying to break into this industry, make money, and bring money back to the kitchen table running their own companies. It's a very difficult landmine for these individual owner-operators or small fleets to understand, and it's hard for them to navigate because how do you fight against that? You have to have everything already in place to truly fight against it. I mean, could you imagine in that scenario that I gave to you, if the broker said, well, it'll pay $5,000, and I said, hang on, I don't need any fuel advance. I don't need any of your money. I've got everything I need. Don't worry about it. Just pay me the full rate on the load. I'll pick it up on Monday. The advantage that I just took control of is incredible in that scenario. In those 10 seconds that I just recited that, the broker lost out on a lot of income that he's been trained in his office to capture for that brokerage company. I stopped him in his tracks because he cannot take advantage of me because although he doesn't know how, but I have already solved that issue, and I'm going to keep those incomes for my business and my family. We're going to walk that forward next. Keys to success. Control your fuel cost, control your money flow. That's not the only thing in trucking you ever need to do, but in my view, those are the very first two that can make everything else a whole lot easier. So owning your own fuel card account and having access to substantial discounts is step one. We're going to talk about that even more so in a moment, but a fuel card account gives you the power to negotiate. Just like the examples we talked about just a few minutes ago, I can now negotiate based on one thing, the load rate. There's no more bargaining power because I have everything else I need. I have my daily money and I have my fuel money, so I'm good. I don't need to be leveraged against. I prevent others from taking advantage of me or leveraging my fuel against me. I've already got that covered because I have my own fuel account. Ensure you control your discounts and get the most out of each discount location and not restricted by one brand location. We're going to talk about that now. We've all driven all over the country. There's tons of brands of truck stops from, TA Petro, Flying J, Pilot, Loves, Speedway, Rudders, Thornton, Sapra. There's so many. All of them have their benefits. All of them have the things we like or love about them. Everything from, the restaurants inside to the food they serve to the cleanliness of the bathrooms and the showers. Even the state of the parking lot is a big one for truck drivers because we don't really want to drive through big chuck holes and big holes in the parking lot. We like to try to be able to park a truck safely. Safety is another one. We want to park in places that are safe for us. Remember, we're not trying to be an, risque areas or areas that are unsafe in different communities. We're just trying to park. Typically, we're trying to get some sleep so we can get up in 8 hours and go back to work. But all of these different things, we want to make sure that we're not restricted. So having a huge fuel network to be able to pick and choose what we want is key. Fuel Access Network fills this void specifically because our network is over 2,500 truck stops across the United States. It encompasses most all of the name brands that we know and love. It encompasses hundreds and hundreds of mom and pop owned truck stops, family owned businesses that they run every single day to cater to the trucking industry. They're not that commercial name we all know, but it is a wonderful location with great services and restaurants and food because they know as a family owned truck stop, they've got to be clean. They've got to be wonderful. They've got to be polite. They've got to be welcoming. They've got to have all those features that these drivers want so it will attract that business in. So they'll fuel there, eat there, buy there, spend their daily dollars before they jump back behind the wheel and they're off again. And they only have a little bit of time to kind of make that memory, say, hey, next time you come through, make sure you stop by again. We sure want to earn your business. You got to think about it from their position. So we built our network as a huge network, coast to coast. So now our customers not only can see the discounts available, they can see the locations. Now, let's talk about our discounts that we give to these owner-operators. Our customers, we're very transparent about them, and they can look at our discounts and compare them to anybody. We don't hide them. We're very public about what we get at any one given location. We have a private app that we built. We control it. It's free. It costs nothing. Not only can you download it, but all your customers can download it. All the owner-operators download it. And that's so that when they jump behind the wheel and they're going from Wisconsin to California, they know these freeways better than anybody. They can recite exits, locations. They know it all. In most cases, these folks are so experienced. They know exactly where they want to go. And when they see one of our locations is in the network with a big discount, they're like, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going to fuel. I already know I can get my favorite sub there. Cindy works there. I can't wait to see her. I see her once a month. We're going to go in and say hi. It's a lot of fun for them too. But the key is the savings. We provide some of the largest savings in the entire network, and here's why. It goes back to how we get compensated. See, we don't take away their savings for our compensation. We get compensated by the fuel providers. We don't get compensated by our customers. We don't say to our customer, hey, I got you a 50-cent discount. Isn't that great? All you got to do is pay me 10% of that discount or pay me X cents of your discount, and then we're good. No, you don't ask them for anything. We're here to help our customers from beginning to end. That is what we do. And if they ever say, well, how do you get paid? You must get paid something. We do. We get paid by the fuel providers. And the reason is we are directing our customers to the locations where the discounts are, which means we're directing our clients to their locations. And if a mom and pop truck stop, for an example, is in our network, they gave us a discount because they are trying to earn that business. And being in that network allows these customers or truck drivers to go, hey, I've never been there, but it's in the network, nice big savings. I'll save some money on fuel up and maybe I can get a sub or a sandwich or some water or coffee there and go check it out. And then that truck stop does what they do well. They are polite. They welcome them in. They keep the place clean bathrooms, clean showers, and they hopefully retain that business. So this is very definite, a partnership between our company, the truck driver, and the truck stops, all working in concert together to build an amazing network to help the industry of the owner-operator. Now, I do focus that it's important to me for obvious reasons because, this was an industry I worked in and the money I earned raised my children. It's very important to me that I give back and that we focus on the driver. because by focusing on the driver, if we do that right and helping them earn money and bring good savings to them, all of the other benefits fall into place because the drivers keep driving. They earn more money. They go to these locations and spend those dollars. And maybe they have a little bit more money in their pocket and they don't just buy, a cheap slice of pizza, and they go sit down in the restaurant and they have a meal now. And they're buying a chicken meal or a steak meal, and they're splurging a little bit because they have a little more money. All of these things come into play. And sometimes people say, well, it's such a small thing. No, it's really a big thing. It's a gigantic thing because it has a river flow effect and it all flows downhill. That's why Fuel Access Network's system of fuel cards is so impactful to the trucking industry. It can create so much good from where we start to where the truck driver goes. It doesn't end there. It keeps going on into the truck stop, the restaurants, on and on it goes. So really looking at this, a fuel card being just a fuel card. I mean, how much of a big deal could that really be? I hope you understand for just the last few minutes in the last two slides that just a fuel card is a gigantic effect with an economy of scale within the transportation industry. And the impact we're having it's almost calculated astronomically in my view, because we'll never know all the impacts we make. If we just focus, though, the impacts are felt all the way down. So in this training, we've covered a lot of things about the trucking industry. We've covered everything from lifestyle to living, to the economics, to the travel, and also to how our fuel cards have an amazing impact in this trucking and transportation industry. Your role in understanding that is vital. And I hope that this small presentation has given you some things to think about. I'm sure it's generated questions. And our entire team at Fuel Access Network is happy to dig even deeper, answer more of your questions to help bring your understanding and your knowledge more well-rounded, to bring you to a position where you feel comfortable not only digging into the transportation industry deeper with Fuel Access Network, but communicating and working on a daily basis with these amazing men and women that travel all across the country, moving freight that are the fabric of the United States. So from myself and all of us at Fuel Access Network, we hope that this has been a great help to you. Please refer back to the folks that brought you this presentation. Let them answer more of your questions and get you more and more training within this industry to drive your success at Fuel Access Network even further.